This video series, I'm gonna call it as a Pocket PMP. I'm gonna summarize the PMP topic in 5 minutes or less. Let's start. The first topic today we are gonna discuss is risk. So, risk is an uncertain event that can have a positive or a negative effect. It can be positive or it can be negative. It all depends on the type of risk. Positive risks are called as opportunities. Negative risks are called as threats. So these are the two types of risk. So when you want to identify the risk, the first thing is always to make a risk management plan. You make a risk management plan that tells us the organizational tolerances, how much organization is going to tolerate into percentage plus 5 threshold, what is their maximum threshold, is your organization risk averse, mean they run away from the risk, or are they risk seeker, they run towards the risk, or are they risk neutral. They calculate both positive and negative impact of the risk and then take answer from that. So we identify all these things plus probability impact definition in the risk management plan. How much probability and impact matrix you are going to use, these things are identified in the risk management plan. Once the risk management plan gets approved, then we move to identifying the risk. We identify all the risk utilizing various tools. We use expert judgment. Expert judgment is one of the most important tools that is utilized in the risks topic. Then we utilize SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat of the organization, assumption analysis and constraint analysis. We utilize PESTEL, what are the political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental risk. So these are basically called as prompt list. We utilize the previous organizational process assets, previous lesson learned register. We have a focus group, brainstorming. Whatever you do, try to identify as many risks as possible in your organization and put it into the risk register. Once you put all the risk into the risk register, now you also want to have a root cause. Why these risks are going to occur? The reason behind that particular patent risk. Why this risk is going to occur in the organization, identifying the reason behind that, put into that, and then you also want to put potential owner who are gonna handle these particular risk. Okay, who are gonna handle these particular risk and what are the potential response for these risks. Put also these things into the risk register. Now once you have put all these things into the risk register, understand this thing, risk is probability into impact. Okay, so some risks are known, unknown. We know that they will occur, but we are not sure about the probability or impact of those things. And then there is something known as unknown. We have no idea about those things. So at any time in your project, maybe one risk can get materialized. You identify that risk that you previously did not identify it, go back and put that risk into the risk register. Known, unknown. We are planning for the known unknown. At least we know it from the past history or through these tools that this particular risk can occur. We put that into the risk register. Now we may have thousands of risks and we don't have time to handle all thousands of risks. So what do? Basically, we prioritize those risks. We use qualitative risk assessment in which we use probability and impact matrix and rank those risks, low, medium and high, or maybe very low, medium, high, very high, depending upon your organizational matrices which you define in risk management plan. And then if needed, we do quantitative risk assessment. Quantitative risk assessment is not needed in all the projects, but if needed, then you do the quantitative risk assessment in your patent project. Quantitative risk assessment is giving number, how much more time will be required. We use simulation in quantitative risk analysis, Monte Carlo analysis, expected monetary value, decision tree analysis. We utilize these tools in it, plus we can also use influence diagram and other tools to rank the risk. We have ranked them qualitatively and we have ranked them quantitatively. Now for the important risk, we add risk response, positive and negative. For negative risk, we have avoid, where we change the plan, like risk is probability into impact, we make the probability 0, that risk does not occur. Avoid is a very good thing in mitigating the risk, in handling the risk. If you can't avoid, you mitigate. You try to decrease the probability or impact. Reverse of avoid is exploit. Reverse of mitigate is enhance. In exploit, you try to increase probability as well as impact. If you cannot increase probability, you try, or impact both, you try to increase one of those things, that is enhance. Then we have transfer, where we basically get some kind of insurance from someone, or in positive we have share. We can escalate any risk when it goes above our tolerance limit, and if we cannot do these things, for negative and positive, we accept the risk. Accepting can be two-way. Passive acceptance, we don't do anything, we say that when this risk will occur, we will make a plan accordingly. So that will be passive acceptance. For passive acceptance, we do workaround and we use management reserves for the passive risk. Whereas for active risk, active acceptance, we use contingencies plan. We make plans for the risk. We make a plan for that risk. How we make that plan? We set a risk owner. He will look for the trigger. Okay, this risk is gonna occur. Check that trigger. When that trigger occur, then he will implement the contingency plan. If the plan is successful, good. You can have two options. Either you have residual risk, the minimum risk, which is accepted. You say, okay, this is accepted, we don't have to take action for every single risk, or a secondary risk. Maybe another risk you identify. Then you plan it, the secondary risk, as you did for the primary risk. This was for active contingency plan. Sometimes, in addition to contingency plan, we have a fallback plan. If contingency plan fail, we are gonna do the fallback plan. You can say as a plan B. You implement the risk response, you look it throughout the process. In addition to that, you do risk audit, that is checking the effectiveness of the process, how good you are managing the risk process or not. You keep on checking your contingency reserves, how many reserves are left there, and if any reserve is not used, mean that risk is not materialized, you release those patent reserves to the organization, back to the reserve pool. And every week every week or monthly, depending on your risk management plan or communication plan, you identify new risk, you show the forecast of that, and we put it into the risk report. We put the risk report, the overall statistics of the risk, how the risk is happening, how the risk is not happening. At any time, if a new risk is identified, you put into the risk register and handle it in this thing. So this is the entire risk for you in the minimum possible time. Now please understand this thing. Risk is an uncertain event. If something is identified before occurring, we handle it as a risk. But if something is identified after it occurred, it's not a risk, it's an issue. So that's a very thin line between risk and issue. And once you have identified something and you plan for it, it will keep in the risk register. I hope this makes sense to you and this added value in your PMP preparation. If you have liked this video, do put the comment what one thing do you loved about this video. Do subscribe our channel so that I can put more content into that. My commitment to YouTube is increasing on every single day, starting multiple series. So looking forward towards you on your comments. What do you think about that? And if you haven't taken the PMP training, you can join our batch program, or you can join our one-to-one program on the link given below at any time. See you in